Just before the episode gets underway, I want to take the chance to ask you to support Reimagining Cyber by following or subscribing to the podcast. Also, if you can, why not leave us a rating and a review? It really helps other cybersecurity-minded folk find us. So, follow, subscribe, rate and review. Now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Reimagining Cyber. My name is Ben, and today we're looking at side channels. That means ways that devices leak information indirectly, even when you never gave permission. We're going to be talking about 3 stories, an Android trick that can figure out your on-screen one-time code, a gaming mouse that behaves like a tiny microphone, and Wi-Fi signals that can sense people moving in your home. With me to reveal is Tyler Moffitt, resident expert. Tyler, thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Tyler, first of all, why are you putting these together now?
Honestly, this is really interesting because I have been to security conferences where I saw the proof of concept on this. And at the time, when you hear about it, you're like, this is sci-fi, like what is going on here? And, specifically, I was at Black Hat looking at the Wi-Fi motion sensing. Maybe you guys have heard about this, but this is actually a real feature that's been developed. This was years ago when I saw it at a hacking conference, Black Hat, and then now it's like in real life, in production, and internet companies like I think it was Comcast or Xfinity, they now feature it in their in-home routers. So it's a big deal, and essentially any sensor can become an attack surface. Right. So I'm going to keep it fun, a little spooky, explain what's real, what's research, and, what you can do about it or what you should keep on the horizon in your brain as we talk about all this.
So let's start with Android. People saw headlines that a simple app could grab your 2-factor code just by being installed. How does that work?
Yeah, that one's crazy and initially reminded me of the attack proof of concept that I saw at Black Hat and was like, I've got to talk about this actually, because who knows what this will lead to, right? Definitely a side channel trick. The app does not take a screenshot, okay? Screenshots require consent. It's built into the Android infrastructure. So instead, what this does is it watches for indirect clues from the phone display system. So your screen refreshes like many times per second, right? At least 60, sometimes 120, sometimes 240, right? Hertz. So when short text appears, like a 6-digit code, single time use password, the way the phone draws that text actually creates tiny timing patterns and small changes in resource use. And so literally a trained model can look at those patterns and guess the numbers that popped up. It's not reading from a screenshot. It's literally guessing from the small changes in resource use and guessing numbers that popped up. It literally can be that fast enough to matter, and it sounds crazy.
Wow. So when you say listening to the cadence of the pixels, you mean it's watching the timing and rhythm of how the phone draws the screen, not the pixels themselves?
Yeah, basically. Imagine sort of hearing a conversation through a wall. You're not really hearing the words clearly, but the rhythm and inflection can give you enough sometimes to sort of guess the sentence, right? Here, like these muffled sounds are display timing signals and, small resource changes that normal app can see. And the app correlates those with what's likely on screen. I mean, I know it probably sounds crazy.
How realistic is this for everyday users?
So it's extremely advanced, obviously, but it is feasible, okay? We'll talk about the Wi-Fi one later that turned into like legit in-product use. So you still need to be a shady app installed, okay? It works best when the phone is steady on the table and the one-time password pops up as a notification. Google closes these leaks over time with patches, but the lesson stands, right? On-screen secrets are easier to leak than people think. That's the whole point.
Give me a short checklist then of how users can stop this happening.
So as always, keep Android updated. Android's going to be changing soon next year as well, to where no apps will be allowed, like the whole side load of apps, through developer options. They won't do that. It has to be digitally signed and approved by the vendor. So as that progresses forward, that may stop this or make it really hard. Also prefer passkeys or push approvals with number matching over SMS codes on the screen. If you don't know what passkeys are, we did another podcasts on that, and passkeys essentially replace the passwords and one-time codes with a phone or security key that proves, it's really you using cryptography. Number matching means the app shows the number and you must tap the same number on your phone. It really does a good job killing most of these push scams. Next would be hide code previews on your lock screen. That's a big one that you can do, and you can customize what's displayed on your lock screen. You can just get a notification saying this person messaged you, but it doesn't contain the message, right? Most people just have the default, which is it tells you who messaged you and then gives you a preview of the message. That's the problem. That's what you're looking to get rid of, right? And then also is put an in-app pin on your authenticator if it supports it. And then also just remove any apps that ask for like super powerful privileges without a clear reason. Like, there's no reason a flashlight app's going to need access to read your photos or your phone calls. But, here we are. And that's what happens. And then also plain English, right? Accessibility service lets an app see and act on other apps. Notification listener lets an app read your notifications. Overlay lets an app draw on top of other apps. Like, all this can be abused. And so really, like, you want to make sure you audit the apps that you're installing and that they don't use any of this jazz that they don't need for what is likely a simple reason that you downloaded it for.
Okay. Next up, let's talk about the gaming mouse that hears speech. Is that real? Is it a stunt? What's going on?
Yeah, so this one also is crazy to me, but it's really close to what the Wi-Fi router was doing. So again, we're proof of concept stage, okay? But essentially, high-end mice, like gaming mice you'd use to play, first-person shooters and stuff on, your gaming PC, they measure tiny micro movements, thousands of times per second. Okay. And when someone speaks literally next to your hard desk where your mouse goes on, the desk technically vibrates a little as you're talking, as I'm talking right now. And so a perfectly still mouse on that hard surface can literally pick up those micro vibrations as tiny movement noise. Okay.
Nuts.
And with a lot, I know. And with a lot of filtering and machine learning, again, AI helping us out here, researchers can literally match that noise to speech patterns that it's got downloaded and trained on, and then recover short phrases and be sort of like hearing, muffled conversations through the wall that we just talked about.
Please tell me that this is unlikely in the wild, in real life.
Yeah, it's not right now. Absolutely, it's just proof of concept, right? But, normal life usually, I would say, kills the signal, sort of white noise that's already on there. Also, if you have a soft mouse pad, like if you have a mouse pad, that's going to help absorb those vibrations. So that's a tech recommendation now, a soft mouse pad versus just the hard desk if you have it. Your hand jitters on the mouse, all right? Firmware can smooth the data. Room could be noisy, birds chirping in the, outside. An attacker would need long, clean recordings, special access to read the mouse data at very high rates. And it's just, much easier to just hack into the laptop microphone, or the webcam microphone. But still, the proof of concept, right?
Still, though, give us the common sense steps.
Lower the mouse polling rate when not gaming. And this is one I don't think anyone's going to do or does, but most people just set it and forget it. They're happy with it. I don't know. Maybe some people have two different settings. One when you're just doing office, tasks, and then one when you're gaming. I pretty much get comfortable with whatever I like when gaming and get used to that using my office tasks. And that one's going to be tough. And here's another one that it would take care of it, but I also can't see many people doing. Unplug it when you step away. Let your endpoint tools alert on apps that read raw input data continuously at high speed. It's something to watch out for sure.
These proof of concepts are really, really creative. Have you got any other examples out there?
Yeah. And there's ones that we've seen even with malware. Researchers showed that you can use, again, this is sci-fi, but it's been actually happened. I'm sure you guys are aware, at least with older desktops, the hard drive activity light. Remember when you would like booting up your computer and you see the light blinking, maybe even makes a sound, right? Yeah, literally that hard drive activity light on your computer can leak out data of an air gap network. So if you don't know what air gap means, that means the machine is not connected to any other network. It's literally like unplugged completely. We recommend it a lot in your backups, and security posture. So no Wi-Fi, no Ethernet, total isolation.
Okay. How does a blinking light actually mean anything useful?
So yeah, basically malware on the inside controls the rate that light blinks by making tiny reads and writes to the disk. The blinking can then become code, like Morse code, right? But much faster. And a small camera across the room can record those blinks, all right? And then later the attacker decodes the video and reconstructs the secret. And so in lab tests, it was fast enough to steal short secrets like encryption keys or passwords before they would expire, if that makes sense.
Like a little optical modem, if you like.
Yeah, exactly. And, it needs line of sight through the LED and the camera with clear view. You need malware on the air gap box to drive the blinking. It's not a mass attack, but it's proof of concept and it proves the point, right? If something blinks, hums, vibrates, warms up, someone will try to encode data in it or do something with it, read it, you name it.
It does seem like an awful lot of hoops for the attacker to jump through, but, if a company did want to reduce that risk in sensitive rooms, what would you advise?
Yeah, honestly, you can be simple with this one. Just cover or disable the indicator LEDs on high security systems.
Really?
Like, yeah. Well, the LED blinking light and the hard drive lights, like those are all just like one little pin on the motherboard. You can literally just remove and it'll never work and you don't need it, right? Also, you can enforce no camera zones, right? Monitor odd disk activity, a bit of ambient light variation. So optical decoding is harder, all these things. I know we've talking about this like it's kind of funny and a joke, but there are lots of security teams in really, high level, high stakes security environments where their posture has to be like through the roof, that they are having these discussions and they are talking about these attack vectors.
Yeah, it's one of the. I guess you can laugh it up all you like, but if it really happens, then you'll look pretty stupid, wouldn't you? Now for the headliner. Years ago at Black Hat, people saw Wi-Fi seeing through walls. Today we have routers or routers, depends which side of the Atlantic you're on, potato, that kind of thing. Anyway, we have routers that detect motion. Can you connect the dots for us?
So we'll start with the physics here, because definitely I've been tracking this one for a while. Wi-Fi is radio waves bouncing around your home, okay? So when a person moves, their body changes how those waves bounce and combine, right? Like sonar. Those changes, it changes the signal pattern between your router and the devices. And so if you watch those changes closely, you can tell when motion technically happens, where it's happening, and even sometimes like the type of movement.
Where did the research that led to this come from?
Yeah, so these were early research projects from universities, right? So Wi-Fi, which is YVI, not Wi-Fi, you showed you could detect people behind a wall using, Wi-Fi frequencies and, clever signal math. And then RF pose went further and you could estimate a human pose, like by literally outline of the posture of the person using radio signals instead of cameras. You don't need to know the equations. The headline in that one is that lab work proved radio can sense humans without a camera.
And now it ships to consumers.
Yes. So all modern mesh systems and some ISP routers, they now offer motion detection as a feature. You opt in, okay, which is good. I'm glad you opt in. It's not default, but that could change at any moment as soon as they want to change the, agreements. But the router looks at the links to devices that do not move, like a smart TV. And if those links change in a way that looks like a person walking, you can essentially get an alert, right? It's sold as like a camera-free way to know if there's movement at home. It's just crazy.
So what's the standard that non-engineers can follow?
So there's a new industry standard called Wi-Fi sensing. It's in the 802.11bf specification.
One of my favorites, that one. Yeah.
It's just a common rule book, right? It helps different brands build features, that work the same way and it can evolve over time. This means motion sensing is not just a one-off trick, all right? It's literally a capability the whole Wi-Fi ecosystem can and looks like is supporting and adopting.
Good for smart homes then, but what about privacy?
Yeah, this is a big one, right? It is opt-in currently, all right? But that can change anytime. Terms and agreements, but it avoids cameras, which many people, like, right? But some people don't like. So motion logs can still reveal patterns, like when a home is empty or when someone usually walks down a hall or something like that. And so, check the data policy. Those, choose local storage when possible, keep the router firmware up to date, things like that.
Got any quick placement and setup tips for us?
Yeah, keep access points away from street facing windows when possible. Keep firmware current and put, smart devices on their Wi-Fi network so sensing does not become an easy path deeper into your home network.
Should you then connect the dots and rank these by practicality today, all the threats you told us about?
All three of these are proof of concept that ordinary sensors can literally turn into information leaks. Okay. They best work in quiet, predictable conditions and often rely on machine learning to clean up and extrapolate the signal, right? But as far as practicality, obviously number one is going to be that Wi-Fi motion sensing. It's literally a feature already shipping and being advertised on the TV of get an alert to know if someone's in your house without using cameras. And it's now got its own standard. It's backed by it. And so the next would be the Android on-screen code interference. That was pretty crazy proof of concept. Credible research that could totally be abused by shady apps. Obviously, mitigations exist, but something to watch out for. And then last, that the gaming mouse eavesdropping is probably the most, I don't know, you call it far-fetched, but the proof of concept is still there, right? It's fun, it's clever, very hard to use outside of a lab, but who knows where that's going to land, right? The polling rates on these gaming mouses only get better. And so as the technology increases and AI gets better, it might get easier to filter out that noise to where that becomes a viable option. And just never say never with this stuff, right?
Before we start wrapping this up, if you could just give the listener, I guess, a punch list, the bullet points of what they should be doing.
Well, all your devices, absolutely. But your phones and your routers for sure, up to date, all the time. Latest firmware, right? Prefer passkeys or push approvals with number matching over SMS codes. Hide those one-time password previews on lock screens, right? The messages, don't have it show you what it is on your lock screen because then anybody can see it, including these apps. And then remove apps that ask for accessibility, notification, listening, overlays, permissions that you shouldn't need. And for gamers or power users out there, maybe consider a soft mouse pad if this is going to progress further as an attack surface. Lower the mouse polling rate when not gaming or unplug it when it's away. I mean, that's extreme, and I myself might struggle to do that unless I see more of this attack vector, but it would scare me into doing that. And, let endpoint tools, alert on suspicious high rate reads of input devices. And then for like home users, generic or SMBs who are managing, your customers, if you enable these Wi-Fi and motion features, like read the data policy, set retention limits, and keep the firmware current, right? And segment your IoT, your Internet of Things, onto a separate network, like VLANs. I like those. And for high risk roles, move to FIDO2 keys or passkeys for sure. And for sensitive meetings, if you absolutely want to be secret, limit microphones and screens in the room. Add a little ambient noise if, you're being extra cautious. I know this may sound paranoia. We're on the verge of paranoia, but this stuff exists. It's already been used with malware when it comes to the hard drive air gap leaks. I mean, this is crazy sort of Cold War type espionage and secrecy cloak and dagger type of attack vectors, but they've been used before. Crazy things, have happened. And so I absolutely think that these need to be on the horizon, especially when one of them is now shipping with products.
Nothing wrong with a slice of paranoia sometimes. Give me the bottom line then, Tyler. Sum this up for me.
Yeah, so these proof of concepts, they make great stories, and sometimes they grow into everyday features, right? Like the Wi-Fi motion sensing basically proves my point there. But always treat sensors like potential microphones and treat anything shown on screen as, visible to other apps unless you harden it, right? If you fix the basics, you can usually blunt these sci-fi demos and attacks we see every day.
Tyler, fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And Tyler will, of course, be back very soon. He's just popping off to the store to buy himself a soft mouse mat. Thank you so much for listening to Reimagining Cyber. We'll be back next Wednesday. Don't forget to subscribe or follow the podcast. Thanks. Bye-bye.